Kansas Health Foundation Symposium, Reshaping Our Reality. As we were sitting down to plan this conference with our partners at the Kansas Health Institute and the Kansas Leadership Center, we took a pulse of the situation, looking at what's going on in the nation and the state, and borrowed a page from the playbook of KLC and diagnosed the situation a bit. And what we discovered is that this is a time of change. It's a time of change at the national level, at the state level, and even at our organizational level. Throughout this past year, our board of directors and staff have gone through a very intense strategic planning process. And you're going to learn more about that process from our president and CEO in a few minutes. But as I'm thinking back on the strategic planning process, there's one story that just kind of comes to mind. I think that really encapsulates what we're here for the conference. A colleague of mine, Jeff Willett, who if you haven't seen him yet, he just turned 5 shades of red, came back from an intense leadership development training. And it's one of those trainings where you come back, he's excited, he's engaged, he's enthused, and it's kind of contagious. And so, we're all kind of on board, and he's like, you know what, we need to be the change we want to see in the world. I'm like, wow, we need to be the change we want to see in the world. So I'm pulling out my laptop, I log on, I'm typing in my password, because of course it's locked, and then I hear, Chris, come on, that's Gandhi. But regardless who said it, it is. We do want to be the change we want to see in the world. And that is what we consider the springboard, the platform for this symposium. As I look across the room, there are about 180 people in the room from different perspectives, different organizations, different political ideologies. But I think it's safe to say we all have one thing in common. We want to improve the health of all Kansans. And it's going to take all of us to do that. At the Kansas Health Foundation, we know we cannot do that alone. We have to work with partners. And if you look who's seated next to you, there are policymakers, health professionals, health administrators, nonprofit leaders, heads of other foundations. And also seated next to some of you are really the people responsible for making this symposium happen. And that's our board of directors. And I would like to take a moment to recognize our board of directors that are here. And if you don't mind, please standing when I call your name. I would appreciate it. And I promise we'll hold the applause to the end. First, Mike Lennon, our board chair. Donna Shank, our board vice chair. Claudia Bakley, I saw Claudia, and Janetta Everett. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. We're also very pleased to be joined by some former Kansas Health Foundation board members. And if you're a former Kansas Health Foundation board member, I know at least I saw Don Stewart over here. So Don, you got to stand up. And if I missed anybody else, please stand. We would definitely want to recognize you. Sorry, Don. I know. I'll pay for it later. Yeah. And sorry, Rick. I missed Rick. I apologize. Sorry. And throughout the conference, you'll probably notice some yellow name tags, and that's the staff at the Kansas Health Foundation. If at any time during the conference you have a question, need something answered, need information, know where to go, find a yellow ribbon, we will help. Now, I know I'm not the main reason you're here today, that we actually have real speakers, but if you could please stay with me for just a couple minutes, I promise we're going to get on with the agenda. But first I want to talk a little bit about the agenda, what's in store for the next couple days. Today, we're going to start off by hearing from Steve Coen as he talks more about the change that Kansas is undergoing, how the foundation's changed, and what we plan to do for the future. Then, we'll be joined by Dr. Richard Carmona, who will tell a story about some difficult childhood experiences, but how he then become the 17th Surgeon General of the United States. After that, we're going to take lunch. And then we're going to be joined by Tonya Lewis-Lee, who is a passionate advocate for health disparities, race, women, infant mortality, and I also have to say she's a tireless advocate flew in yesterday and I think went immediately on a tour of Old Town and downtown Wichita, and then hosted a roundtable conversation with 20 women with Cosmopolitan magazine about what are women's health issues facing the state. And then after we hear from our national speakers, we're going to have a panel based on Kansas panelists, and that we really want to bring the information from the national level and talk about it more on the state perspective, to talk about what's going on in Kansas. After the panel, we're going to be joined by Dr. Robert Putnam. Dr. Putnam literally wrote the book on social capital and civic health. And after Dr. Putnam speaks, we have a copy of one of his latest books that we're going to give to all participants, and he's going to be sticking around to sign the book if you'd like. That's day one. And that's today. We still have a long way to go. And if you are staying in Wichita tonight and are staying at the Ambassador, Wichita has some entertainment for you. We actually have a big event going on this week, Wichita River Festival, 40th year, right down the street on Douglas. Hop on down. You do need a button, but you get concerts, food avenues, venues, entertainment. It's there. Also, a concert at Interest Bank tonight that's not sold out yet, so opportunities. And tomorrow, we're going to start with breakfast. It's really a casual, informal breakfast. And what we're going to have are representatives from the Kansas Health Foundation, the Kansas Health Institute, and the Kansas Leadership Center at various tables. It's a buffet breakfast. We encourage you to come in, grab some food, and sit down at one of the tables, and it's just a chance to talk, to connect. We want to hear your ideas. If you have questions of staff of one of the organizations, let us know. We just wanted to create a space to hear from you, to hear from the participants. After breakfast, we go straight into our speakers with John Zogby, international renowned pollster and political analyst. And he also has something special. He has recently conducted, hot off the press this week, a poll about Kansas, some politics, and some insights about civic health that will be released. And then after Zogby, we're going to have a panel really about civic health. So we have the national civic health speakers, and we're going to break it then down to Kansas and have some Kansas panelists that are really going to dive more into the issues facing civic health in Kansas. And I've been to a couple conferences before. It's a Friday afternoon, and there might be a tendency to kind of sneak out. I don't encourage you to do that, because immediately after lunch, we are going to be joined by John Quiñones, who is ABC's host of What Would You Do? Has an amazing personal story, and will also be weaving in examples from his show, What Would You Do, into that conversation. And then immediately after that, we also have purchased copies of the books for all participants, and he'll be available to sign the books as well. So that's our 2 days, that's the agenda. So I want to go into a little bit about the logistics. Right now, you are in the Kansas Leadership Center and Kansas Health Foundation Conference Center. It's been open a couple years now, and when it opened, the then mayor of Wichita, Carl Brewer, described it as the living room of Kansas. It was a place to connect, to reflect, to dream, and to engage. And we hope we've created this space and this time for that to happen for all of you. Right now, we're in Town Hall. Town Hall is where all of our meetings will take place. If it's a plenary session, you're here. If it's a panel, you're here. So you're in the right place. But also we have a couple of activities taking place outside. All meals will be served in the lobby. You probably saw some tables set up when you came in. Lunches will be plated, so when it's time for lunch, have a seat, and lunch is on its way out. For break times, we have beverage stations down here. But also we have some beverage stations upstairs and some snacks upstairs as well. So feel free to take advantage of both floors. You got your beverages, snacks, it's the place to go. Although we're primarily in this building, we do encourage you to view this building as well as our building next door, the Kansas Health Foundation, as a campus. For one reason, between both buildings, we've purposefully and intentionally curated an art collection, all from Kansas artists, that's meant to inspire and, quite frankly, maybe sometimes make you uncomfortable, but to think and to reflect. Also, for restroom purposes. At some point, I know it's probably going to be a necessity. And so we have 2 on this floor in the Leadership Center. Straight down the hall, there are signs, you can't miss it, as well as 2 upstairs. And if there are long lines, feel free to go across the vestibule into our building, 2 upstairs, as well as 2 downstairs. And there's a map of the building in case you get lost, but I promise there are signs, and it might be tough. And then also, we have a courtyard next door. Outside, it's recently replanted, and we encourage you during the breaks, if you need some time and space outside, go on across and take advantage of that courtyard. We've also worked really hard to create a conference experience that does provide that opportunity to connect, to engage, and to energize, and hopefully inspire a little bit. And we know one thing about conferences, that people like to stay connected. So we've got Wi-Fi. We got really creative with our Wi-Fi code and password. If you're looking for the network, it's called KHF 16, as in Kansas Health Foundation Symposium 16. And we also got creative with the password, Reshaping 16 with a capital R. And if you forgot, it's on the back of your name tag. But we also want you to connect because we want you to be engaged on Twitter. We are very fortunate to have the caliber of speakers here to share ideas, new information. But we don't want this information to stay in the room. This is an opportunity to inform other Kansans about all this amazing work with a national level as well as the Kansas level. And an opportunity to show the nation that Kansas is a leader. So we do want you to be engaged on Twitter. Our hashtag is KHFS16, and it's also on the back of your name tag. And for those that are not on Twitter, we have other ways to engage as far as social media, both Facebook and Instagram. And I know it's a surprise, back of your name tag is that information as well. We do also have some conference swag, if you will. We have a long couple days. We think it's going to be really packed. So as you came in, you saw your water glass. Feel free to help yourself to some nice, healthy infused waters. We also have water bottle fillers on both floors. It even has a fancy little counter that tells you how many water bottles you're saving in the process. And also we're calling it officially the Bendy Twisty thing. It's all about reshaping our reality. If you get inspired during the conference and you're ready to shape your own reality, you've got a tool. Or if you just need to keep busy, you've got that as well. We also have some activities that you can take advantage of during the break. The first thing is that we know that a lot of times when you go to conferences, you hear information, you take it back, and then you kind of forget about it. Well, that's not going to happen. We have a photography booth upstairs, one of those photo booths, and they made me pose, for you to go upstairs, take your picture, and put it up in the wall in your office, on the fridge, wherever you need, as a reminder about what needs to take place to help reshape our reality. And also at the Kansas Health Foundation, we believe in walking the talk. So at 3:30 today, we are going to have some fitness instructors from the Y come lead us in just a small group stretch. Don't worry, I promise there's no jumping, no sweating, just a time to get a little active, get the blood flowing. And for those who want even more engagement during that time, they're going to do another 10-minute session upstairs as well that we'll be able to announce. Overall, we want to thank you for your partnership. Again, we know we cannot do this without you as we work at the Kansas Health Foundation to reshape our reality.